This is Centered, where faith meets everyday life. Our hope is to invite you into a better story, a story where you are made new through Jesus, living with God-given purpose, and experiencing peace, joy, and freedom. Together, we'll explore what it means to keep Jesus at the center of where we live, work, and play, bringing beauty, meaning, and renewal to every part of our lives. We'd like to invite you to a few family-friendly opportunities we have coming up. Join us for our Good Friday services on April 3rd at 7 p.m., where we will prepare our hearts for Easter as we reflect on Jesus' sacrifice. Then join us again on April 5th at 9 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. for our Easter services and celebration. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed this week's episode.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Centered Podcast.
Thank you.
Yes,
it's good to be
You're
here.
someone.
I am
I'm
someone.
also welcoming you.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here.
Yes, I am as well. And man, I thought I'd start off today. I want to jump right in because I got something a little bit different. It's going to create extra work for people. They love that.
I love extra work.
But the Centered Podcast fact checkers are back.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
I was sent this.
Yes.
Well, first I want to share. This is what was said last week. I'm back, and to quote you, I am going to satisfy the deepest yearnings of people's hearts. You said something about people will be yearning for me. I'm like, that's probably a little too generous.
I said absence makes the heart grow fonder, I think.
I heard the word yearning. Someone said yearning. Maybe.
I always say I didn't say that, and then you pull out some transcript somewhere.
Don't make me
saying the thing that I said I didn't say. So.
People do it for me. They send it to me. They're like, "Oh no, he did here."
That just shows how spontaneous I am. Yearning.
People do it for me. Here we go. It just, can't just stay up the way I had it. Here we go.
Technology.
From a fact checker.
Okay.
We miss Ben, obviously.
Obviously. Yeah, of course. We
Not
miss
the same
Ben.
without him.
But yeah, absence makes the heart grow fonder.
That's right.
That's what they say.
Absolutely.
So this will be good. Next week, we'll all be yearning for him. It was both. It was both.
Yes. And in case no one sent this to you yet, I've been yearning for you all week. That was the text that accompanied. The Centered fact checkers are real. So, we gotta stay on our A game.
You cannot get anything past them. But I did get a text from Megan's husband who said that he was yearning for Megan. So,
well, that's
him. That's
good.
Yeah,
I would prefer.
He must have heard it on the podcast as well. I got a little fact checked in that moment too. So.
It's humbling.
I can't remember everything.
Well, certainly not everything you say.
I remember very little of what I say, actually, which can be dangerous.
That's real. So I thought it was worth sharing. Thank you for keeping us honest, Centered fact checkers.
And what Ben means by keeping us honest is keeping David humble. That's what he really means.
I have a firm belief
we've never had a Ben fact check yet.
I'm sure. I was just gonna say I'm sure my day is coming.
Yeah, you're just really good at plausible deniability.
It's an art. Man, we had a really, really great Sunday.
Oh, it was beautiful.
Really good. First of all, kids on stage.
It didn't get cuter than that.
It doesn't get cuter than that. Even the fifth graders, they're pretty cute, But there was this one kid, had to be like 3.
Yeah.
The whole time, he was turned around just staring at me. He didn't take his eyes off me.
I saw you
once.
try to turn him around.
And I was just like, I didn't know what to do. It was really funny.
Tara said there was a kid crying the whole time on there. I was like, that's so sad. What are we subjecting our kids to? I felt bad when she told me. I didn't see the kid, but
it's the greatest chaos you could ever invite into a service. I know that Paul wants us to have orderly services.
Oh,
you know,
the Paul, not
Paul Church,
not Paul Schumann.
I mean,
not
Paul Schumann.
Church.
Yeah,
okay.
They might prefer that too. But I feel like this is a good kind of chaos.
Yeah,
and it was pretty
cool.
cute.
It's pretty sweet. And anytime that we get to have like the whole church involved in our gathering, that's really cool. I love that.
It was beautiful. And man, I was worried for Robbie because like you got to follow that up, right? Like that the bar is set really high by all the kids, and then you're up. And so that's why we had a little David buffer in there, I guess. But I didn't hear a word David said, to be honest. I did see you running with those books, and I was like, oh, wow, David's in better shape than I thought you were. I thought you'd be huffing and puffing more than that.
I don't know. I don't know what it is. I was rested. It was my vacation.
That was it.
All the laying on the beach.
That was
in Mexico.
You mean you weren't just laying around in Mexico yearning for me?
No, I did not. I did not yearn at all on my vacation.
That's good. It was a yearn-free vacation.
It was a yearn-free vacation.
That's a good trip.
Yeah,
that's a good trip.
Amazing.
All that to say, man, Robbie, so good.
He's a stud.
I was just like briefly saying it, like, it messed with me, but like in the best possible way. Like he, honestly, I think the thing that I was most, not just impressed by, because that's not really the goal of preaching, to impress. But just like his ability to be vulnerable in a way that is also like invites us to be vulnerable. Like, there's a lot of times where, I don't know, I'll get sucked into like, comparing or whatever the thing is. And he just did it in such a way that I was just like, wow, I felt like, somehow I was just like I was sitting with him,
Yeah.
And we were just talking about, grief and sorrow and his kid and just all of it.
Yeah. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing about Robbie is he is wickedly smart. So he's like an academic through and through, loves study, but you would never know it. Like the thing that shines through in his preaching is legitimately, it reminds me of when people were like these common uneducated men like had been with Jesus. And it's like that's what comes through is that he stays close to Jesus.
It was like,
and it's evident. Like you hear him and you're like, dude, that's evident.
Like I know he said like I haven't mastered this or something to that effect. I'm working through this.
Yeah.
And of course we all are. But I'm like, I sat there thinking, but you actually are working through it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're doing the work. Yeah. You're not doing what most of us are doing, which is avoiding
it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So really, really powerful, really good. Yeah. I was thinking about how we've spent the last few weeks just kind of talking about like the church's inability to lament. And I walked away actually going like, man, I think I have an inability to lament.
Yeah.
Because it was so pointed.
Yeah.
The conversation. And so, yeah, I'm really eager to dive into it.
Yeah, same, dude. It's beautiful. And I do think that it is probably one of the I don't know, like I don't know what to call it. I almost call it like the bait and switch of like the American gospel. It's like we get so quickly to the empty tomb and the victory of resurrection that we don't ever spend any time on the reality that most of us experience, which is brokenness and suffering, know? And yeah, there's something missing, I think, in Western evangelicalism, and it has to do with this topic.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And I'm sure we'll dig into it more. But it's been a running theme.
Yeah.
For the last few weeks. And I think my heart shifted from you guys are bad at this to like, oh no, I'm not very good at it either.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
So it's a hard thing. Yeah, and understanding what to do with our pain and our suffering is, man, if we could get a handle on that, oh, yeah, I think we would experience so much greater relief and peace, and we'd stop looking for relief in all the wrong places.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we don't have a cutting room floor.
No.
Because we don't have Robbie here with us.
No.
But you did, actually, some of the heavy lifting here by asking someone else to do the heavy lifting. That's called leadership.
That's what leaders do. They delegate. So we went to our faithful producer, Megan.
Yes.
And had her chop up some questions for our cutting room floor segment.
Yeah.
Which is good. But I do have something that I want to read before we dive into some of those.
Please do.
Those questions. And I'm reading this little devotional right now by Dane Ortlund. And it's been really cool. I finished it this morning. And he was talking about the passage in Ephesians 2:5-7. And I was just thinking about how timely this devotional was, but here's what the passage reads. It says, "We're made us alive with Christ, even when we were dead in our transgressions. It's by grace you have been saved." So here's Paul talking. Paul you referred to earlier, the OG Paul. And he's just talking about like our aliveness in Christ. And he said, "And God raised us up with Christ and seated us with him in the heavenly realms in Christ Jesus, in order that in the coming age he might show the incomparable riches of his grace as expressed in his kindness to us in Christ Jesus." And I was thinking about what Robbie was talking about of what does it look like to hang on to hope? Like how do you hang on to hope when life hurts, when we're in the midst of suffering? What do we do? And this is what Dane Ortlund talked about. He basically said his grace and kindness is toward us in Jesus Christ. And then he wrote this. He said, "Do you realize what is true of you if you are in Christ?" Which I just love that opening question, because I don't think we really do.
No.
I think that's one of the hardest things for us to grasp, especially in suffering. And he says, "Those united to him are promised that all the haunted brokenness that infects everything, every relationship, every conversation, every family, every class, every job, every vacation, everything will one day be rewound and reversed. The more darkness and pain we experience in this life, the more brightness and relief in the next." As a character says in C.S. Lewis' 1945 book, The Great Divorce, reflecting biblical teaching, it says this: "That is what mortals misunderstand. They say of some temporal suffering, no future bliss can make up for it, not knowing that heaven, once attained, will work backwards and turn even that agony into a glory. If you are in Christ, you have been made eternally invincible, even now."
Wow.
And I was like, man, that is such a good connection to what we've been talking about, especially on Sunday, but throughout the Lent season is this bright sadness of like, man, hanging on to the hope in a way that is more than just wishful thinking, but assurance. And I think sometimes I was just, man, how do people get that assurance of being made new, of being alive in Christ? Like, where does that come from? What is that? Like, how do we get that into our lives? Because I feel like a lot of times in our suffering, when we have trouble making sense of our suffering, it's because our hope is kind of just this flimsy, wishful thinking, might someday happen type of, I'm not really sure type of mentality. But if we were sure,
right,
that what Jesus promised will come true, that everything sad will become undone, in eternity. Like, how does that change the way we move through suffering?
Yeah. Well, it makes me think of, have you ever met someone with irrational confidence?
Yes.
Like there is nothing that qualifies you to be so confident in whatever you're set out to do.
Yeah.
And I look at people like that, and usually just like my cynical side comes out, and I just laugh. I'm just like, okay, buddy, good luck, whatever.
Yeah.
The difference here is we should have a rational confidence.
Yeah.
A confidence that's grounded in
something real.
Yes. And it's not just words in a book. It's not just our own life experience, but it's like so many things that God has woven together, including His Word, including our life experiences, including His creation and how it all works together. And if we had that same level of confidence as the irrationally confident person, how would we go through suffering? How would we endure suffering? It made me think of the guy that the story that Robbie told, the guy who, his house burns down, his dad's going to poison him, all this stuff. And he doesn't view it as tragedy. He views it as God's protection.
Provision. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's what I had in mind, is just like having that type of confidence. Robbie had some car trouble yesterday and literally had stuff, and I was asking him how things went, and I texted him. I was like, did you smile the whole time? And he sent me a picture of Ross. Remember when Ross got his teeth whitened on the thing? He sent me a picture of Ross, his teeth whitened. He's like, yep, this is what I look like. And so but yeah, it is. I do think that there's something to that, and I was reflecting this morning on Robbie's message, and I was just like, man, like I there's seasons where I feel this confidence, and there's seasons when I don't. Yeah. And I was just struck with the tension between living in those two realities. But then I had this thought, I think there are people out there that have never had this real assurance that their kind of like hope is very whimsical or thin and not solid. And even in our volunteer gathering, I talked about Jesus entering into Jerusalem, and they were singing to him, and they were doing it because of the miracles that they saw Jesus do. So there's something very concrete, tangible that caused their worship in that moment. And I believe our faith is meant to be the same. It's not like blind or uncertain or hope. It's like it's filled with an assurant type of hope.
Well, and I do think that there is something to some of the most faith-filled people are people who have experienced suffering and seen God show up.
Yeah.
And I've always felt like when you're young, you're at a disadvantage when it comes to faith, simply in the sense of you haven't seen God show up.
Yeah.
And as you experience that over time, the next time and the next time and the next time, my confidence is that much greater.
Yeah.
That God will show up again. And so, I think there is something real to that, but also something like really important about our perspective as we go through it, because they're like the people who've seen God shown up the most, they've endured a lot to see God show up.
Yeah.
And there are people who have endured the same level of stuff and would say they've never seen God show up. But I think so much of that is really just your perspective. Like, where is your focus? Is it that your dad tried to poison you and someone burned your house down? Or is it that your mom warned you and that someone, saved you and told you to leave your house? Like, where are you? What are you looking at?
Yeah.
And that's
huge.
That seems to be the thing that differentiates.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was also thinking that a lot of it is, I was thinking about that Ephesians 2 passage, and and even when I started with this, some of it is only possible by the power of the Holy Spirit leading you into a legitimate encounter with Christ.
Yes.
You know, like
Absolutely.
Jesus isn't an idea. He's not a philosophy. He's not just good advice. He's not some sort of sage that help us to live just a little bit better life. He's like, he makes all things new. And like, until you have a legitimate encounter with him, that newness is impossible.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think like, you know, I think we've said this, like the whole concept of you can't share what you don't have.
Yeah.
And so if you haven't had that encounter, like you can't share it with others, but two, like you can't even just like refer back to it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have, like now you have something like powerful that you can always go back to and say, no, I've met Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And that's the guy. Like, that's the India story, which, yeah, I love that story. And like, that's the only way that you can have a smile on your face and talk about the tragedy is when your hope is really anchored in the sure thing. You know what I mean? And like, so much of our hope is anchored in things that are unstable. But when you're betting on the sure thing, like, you can have confidence.
Absolutely. It's good.
All right. Well, let's get into some of these questions that Megan so skillfully crafted for us to talk about. And I thought this was interesting. She said that Robbie talked about how we're not often, and this was probably to me one of the most brilliant lines in the whole message was I was never taught how to be sad. Like, I got taught how to, exegete scripture, how to lead organizationally, how to, all kinds of different things that we learn, but we never was taught how to be sad. And Megan picked up on this idea, and she said, as men specifically, how has your upbringing and the things you saw modeled as young men shaped your perception or experience of open grief, sadness, and lament? And that's a really insightful question.
It's a really good question. My response is, what's that? Absent.
Yeah.
Like NA, and that's what was modeled for me. And it's one of those things, they say, as parents, so much of what your kids learn is caught rather than taught.
Yeah.
I caught this, and it was reinforced in some not so uncertain terms too, like, stop crying or I'll give you a reason to cry.
Yep. I heard that a lot.
A lot of that.
Yep.
A lot of that. And so yeah, I learned very early how to suppress sadness, lament, pain, sorrow, all of that.
Same.
And so I think it was probably around the age of 35, late bloomer, where I started to like really realize how unhealthy that was.
Yeah.
And how anytime I didn't like something happening in my world, I would just push it under the rug. Try to ignore it, avoid it, hide it, run from it, bandage it, whatever, but not actually deal with it. And so I've had a lot of conversations with my sons about, because I think they have picked up those things too.
Yeah.
And even though I am learning and growing in that area, like, it's well documented, I do not cry.
And there's theories like you don't have tear ducts and
legitimately like I no worky. And so what I tell my kids though is I go, look, real strength and real courage is talking about your pain and working through it in safe spaces, not, don't post it on social media or, but just like having people that you can walk with through life's hardest things. And that's how you move forward instead of just like pushing it down.
Yeah. Yeah, same. I mean, I had the same upbringing. Matter of fact, I didn't see my dad cry until I was 7 years old, and he sat me down and told me that my mom and him were getting a divorce. But he sat down and he was crying. And dude, I remember, like, even talking about it right now, I remember the feeling I had was absolute terror. Like, I saw that type of emotion and I was like, what in the world is this? What's going on? Like, this must be bad, because it was just not something that was common. And so I picked that up into well into my adulthood. And I had, from an early age, I had multiple experiences of loss. I had some really close friends take their own life and experienced it. And it wasn't until I started until I got saved and started getting to the ministry that I had to start working through some of those repressed feelings and emotions. And I remember weeping over something that happened 15 years previous that I'd never wept over in the moment, because it hit me so hard. But yeah, I grew up the same exact way, and I think a lot of men, grow up in a world that says, men don't cry. That I'll give you something to cry about, and you got to suck it up. Which, man, when you suppress your emotions, when you your emotions don't go away; they just come out in weird ways,
right?
And that's
anger,
that's a problem.
Anxiety,
anxiety, fear, depression, and I think lament is actually one of the ways that we are healthily in tuned with what it means to be human.
Yeah, Robbie called it a pressure release valve.
Yeah, the pressure release valve. That was brilliant. It's that's what lament actually is, because if you don't, we all feel the tension of living in a broken world, and even lament over the way things are, like the political division, the global war, all these things that are going on around us. Without a pressure relief valve, what we do is we end up targeting people and having some of those emotions come out in anger or hatred or division or racism or bigotry or sexism or whatever the thing is. It comes out in strange
and generally in spaces where we feel like we've lost control.
Yes.
And so
and even that phrase is an illusion, because the illusion is that we had control. We feel like we've lost control. I think lament goes. So I think that's something definitely that men need to think about. And what does it look like to really have places that you can go and be really honest about how you feel and what's going on emotionally? It's hard.
Well, and one of the essentials to it, and which is I think hard for guys, is a safe place to do it. If you're married, that hopefully can be your wife. But I know in some marriages it's not. And so what do you do in those cases? But I think that probably one of the best ways to find a safe space is to be a safe space. And you cultivate that. And so if you are just looking around in your world and there's no safe space, find a place you can be a safe space. And just begin to cultivate. It doesn't mean tomorrow it's safe, but it's a starting point.
For sure.
I'm going to ask you the second question.
Okay.
Because I have them as well. So Robbie mentioned the quote by St. Augustine that Christians are meant to be a heavy people.
Done. Easy.
I know. Insert fat joke here.
Easy.
I was
just at an all-inclusive.
You beat me to it. I was
at an all-inclusive for 4 days. I am definitely a heavy people.
Okay. So, then perhaps we've already answered this question. How do we achieve that practically in 2026? And what do you think are the most important places and spaces for us to fight for heaviness? So maybe we should start with what is heaviness? Is it all-inclusive eating?
No, it's not all-inclusive, but it is resolution, and it's an immovableness in stuff. And so, and man, I do think the church needs to be heavy in certain areas of its of its public life. Like
Yeah.
there needs to be some immovable places, and one of them is our absolute commitment and dedication to a risen Lord. Like that's an immovable place. That's where the church needs to be heavy. And it's weird, for people who don't know Jesus, that's a weird idea. Like we believe that, Jesus was the Son of God and that he resurrected from the dead and that he's king and ruler and Lord over our lives.
All of those things are foreign.
All of those things
to
are
us
foreign.
in modern USA.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And we need to be a heavy people about that. We also need to be heavy in things that I don't think we're very heavy in right now. Things like a radical commitment to love neighbor.
Yeah.
Well,
that was the thing that came to mind for me was love.
Yeah. We need to be immovable in our commitment to be good neighbors and to love our neighbors and to be steadfast in welcoming our neighbors. And I think that's something that is should be. I know I shouldn't should on anyone. I shouldn't should on anyone.
He's going to should on you
we
guys.
We should be a people who are committed to love neighbor in the way that Jesus declared and displayed in his own life.
Which, if you think about the week we're entering into, it's pretty costly, I think is the word.
Yeah, it is costly.
Yeah,
it is costly.
Yeah, I think it's so easy for us, and this is, I think when the church bends towards legalism, that we'll come up with idioms to make it sound like it's really loving to have a harsh reprimand.
Yeah.
But to be absent from acts of love.
Yeah.
And so for us to be the church, to truly demonstrate God's love, it's almost like the thing of joy, where Robbie talked about joy needs to show up in your face.
Yeah.
I mean, love needs to show up in our actions, just to say, I'm holding the truth in love. And that's how I'm giving people love, is a heavy dose of truth. That's not love. That's just truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just truth.
There's no love there.
There's no love. You might say that you're doing it out of love, but unless you have action that demonstrates your love, it's lost.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, I could say so much. And I think the new legalism of our day is really colonialism or powerism, like we want to be in control and have
that word again.
What?
There's that word again.
There's that
control.
Word again. Yeah, control. Totally.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's one of the ways. And then in the other ways, I think, and we talked about it last week on the podcast, that tension between gratitude and groaning, being honest about the brokenness in the world around us. We need to be immovable in saying that's not the way it's supposed to be. Being a people that instead of ignoring it or try to put on a happy face or the whole bunch of niceties, we need to be able to say, look, that this is not the way things are supposed to be.
And it's not the way they'll end up.
Yeah. No.
Which is a vital piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And anyone, anytime someone's happy about war or happy about, you know what I mean? That's always weird to me,
Yeah.
So I'm just
we've seen different instances where people are celebrating the death of another person.
Totally.
And I'm not talking one side of the political aisle or the other.
No, it's on both sides. Yeah,
I've seen it, and I'm just wow.
It's we should never be happy about that. We should be immovable in our declaration of things that are displeasing to God. That hurt the heart of God.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. As I think about places and spaces, I think of two things. One, I think of the internet. It is so easy to go keyboard warrior.
Yeah.
There's not a human in front of you. You just say what you think, and it feels like, I think there's just like, I don't fully know the psychology behind it, but I do know that people get like an endorphin hit from just whatever popping off.
Yeah. And they
Not
feel
so
like they're
with you.
doing good work. That's what's strange to me, is they feel like they're somehow doing good work, and it's not, man. Anytime
it's
you're
not work at all.
Yeah, it's not.
It didn't take a lot of effort. Maybe you're thinking.
It's what I believe is the enemy's work often.
Well, yes.
You're literally working for Satan.
Yep.
And you don't even know it.
That would be place one. The place two is, I would say, the person in front of you. Like, actually, I would say move the conversations that are so easy to have online to in person, and have them with grace and love and without condemnation, and just like kind of going back to like that being a safe space, like being a space for the broken, for the hurting. And that everyone's busy. And so I feel like one of the most expensive commodities is time. And it takes time to sit with someone.
Yeah.
And hear their story, hear their struggle, and then walk with them.
Yeah. For sure, man. For sure.
Yeah. Last question. Robbie talked about lamenting and then returning to hope. We touched on this. What are verses that you both personally cling to when you're in seasons of lament to return to hope?
There's a passage in 2 Corinthians 4, verses 16 through 18, and it says, therefore we do not lose hope. Though outwardly we are wasting away, inwardly we're being renewed day by day, for our light and momentary afflictions, this always gets me, are achieving to us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary, and what is unseen is eternal. And man, that verse there's so much in that reality. And we live in a world that is more and more and more consumed with instant gratification, which makes heaven or eternity feel so foreign
and distant
and not even like worth pursuing.
Maybe God should come up with a better delivery system. Amazon did.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how it feels.
Yeah, and it's like, oh wait, maybe Satan came up with that delivery system. To keep us distracted from things. And the whole message was, if you didn't get it, is on endurance. It's on this idea of how how do the saints, perseverance of the saints is kind of like the theological category for that. And how do you persevere as a Christian? And in some way, shape, or form, your theology has to include eternity. It has to include a second coming. It has to include a perfect judge. It has to include a new creation, a new heaven and a new earth. Like, it has to include a new you. If you're sick or an ailment or struggling, or man, you can't get pregnant, or you're whatever's going on in your world. Like, if your theology does not include a perfect whole future reality, you're going to have a really hard time enduring in the Christian faith.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's good. I was thinking about, I have, maybe I like to call it a biblical crush on the book of Ephesians. Yeah, I love Ephesians. And,
do you know there's like New Testament scholars that believe that Ephesians is like a reworking of the Sermon on the Mount? Have you heard this?
Yeah. No, I haven't heard that.
Yeah, there's some really cool, like,
I've heard reframes. A lot of people who have said they wish that Luther would have built the Reformation on Ephesians rather than Galatians. Just because Galatians seems to have like a harsher edge. And
oh, you foolish
yes,
Galatians.
Ephesians 1, I won't read the whole thing, but there's a segment that just really gets me. So this is verses 4 through 10. It says, "For he chose us in him before the creation of the world to be holy and blameless in his sight." Like, just being chosen is huge. In love, he predestined us for adoption. I love that. Like, I always think, like, could you ask for a better adoption?
Yeah.
An adoption to sonship through Jesus Christ in accordance with his pleasure and will, to the praise of his glorious grace, which he has freely given us in the one he loves. Like, just grace. In him, we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of sins in accordance with the riches of God's grace that he lavished on us. Like, I love that. Dude, you were just on a lavished. You were all-inclusive, baby.
Yeah.
Lavished is good. With all wisdom and understanding, he made known to us the mystery of his will according to his good pleasure, which he purposed in Christ to be put into effect when the times reach their fulfillment, to bring unity to all things in heaven and on earth under Christ, which is that eternity component. And man, when I am struggling, this is like bedrock. This is, the kind of stuff that just reminds me who I am, who God is, and what it means, not just for me, but for all of creation.
Yeah, what he's working towards. Yeah, I love that. Ephesians 1:10, that's like my thesis statement for mission, like why we exist. It's so good. Yeah, it's so good.
Is it time to have some fun?
Yeah.
Just for funsies.
All right. I feel like I get sometimes when we get to this segment, I really like.
Are we allowed to have fun talking about Lament?
We're holding them in tension.
This is our joy segment. Today they were talking to a friend. They invited them to our Good Friday service, and they said they're like, "No, I don't like to be depressed."
That's real.
Isn't that great?
Yeah,
Isn't that funny.
It's very welcome to the West.
Welcome to
America.
The West. Yeah.
I get into these like things where I like to talk about slang. I just think slang's fun.
You love slang.
I do love slang. Yeah. So we're gonna call it retro or retired.
Oh, retro or retired. Okay.
So retro's the good.
Yep.
Retired, like, man, it needs to go.
Yep.
Because Robbie had a couple of word choices that caught my attention.
Oh.
Yes. At one point, dude, and has Freddie ever enjoyed a sermon at Mosaic more than this Sunday?
Dude, like
all
the
pants
on his pants, dude.
Yes, man. He said that Freddie had, quote, the dopest pants.
The dopest pants.
The dopest pants. Then
my 14-year-old would roll his eyes at me if I said that.
Yes. He later went on to say that we should read Habakkuk. Why? Because it's rad. So it made me think about this. Like, are these kind of words, are they retro? They're still like cool?
Yeah.
Or do they need to be retired? And we'll see if Robbie listens to the podcast. So
he will.
For everyone, I'll give you a word. You just tell me retro, or retired, and if you got any thoughts on why, let me know. So first word is rad.
Rad.
You gonna bust on Robbie here? Or you?
I'm gonna call it retro.
You're gonna call it retro?
Yeah.
Okay. You think things are rad?
I grew up with rad. It was
you were a skater,
like
right?
Southern California beach skater vibe. Yeah, for sure. So I'm going retro.
Cool. I was rad. Not as much as maybe dope. What do you think about dope?
Dope probably needs to be retired.
Yeah, I don't use it now.
Yeah, I don't use it now.
But back
I'd
in
use
the day,
rad. I'd use rad, not dope.
How about sweet?
Oh yeah, retro.
Yeah.
I use it all the time.
All the time, sweet. How about legit?
Ooh,
That's legit.
too legit to quit.
Yeah. See,
I think it's retro.
It's made a comeback.
Yeah, I think it has.
Yeah.
I think even my son would use it.
Yeah, mine too. Baller.
Retire.
Oh, really? I think my kids say baller.
Do they?
Yeah, I think they'll say like that's a baller move.
It just goes to show I'm not a baller.
Well, exactly.
Exactly.
That's why we do this. It's fun to see what does David think of this. How about awesome?
Yeah, retire.
Yeah. No, that one's passe. Dude.
I use it all the time.
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
I call everyone dude.
I'm more bro, but dude.
Yeah.
It makes me think of Dude, Where's My Car? With the tattoos. What's mine say? Dude! What's mine say? What is the other one? Whoa! I think it's whoa. This is such ridiculousness. Here's we're getting older now.
Okay.
Gnarly.
Oh, retro.
You like?
I like gnarly.
You like gnarly.
Yeah.
I don't think I've used gnarly in a long time. How about this? Oh, it's sweet. Eddie got me. What's mine say, dude? What's mine say? Sweet. Thank you, Eddie. Cool beans.
Oh, no.
I agree with you,
No.
but I have heard I think Courtney used cool beans.
Cool beans.
Which is funny to me.
Yeah. That must use it ironically or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, because there's no way.
Yeah. Anytime someone young says something like that to me, I'm like, they're making fun of me right now.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
And
they're making fun of my...
I can totally see Courtney
they're making fun of my
me.
pants.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, last one I got. Far out. You can pair it with dude if you want. Far out, dude.
Retire.
Yeah.
Far out.
I'm not far out. So
that's more of like a 70s drug, 60s drug type
far
of thing.
out, man.
Yeah. Drugs are down,
Totally.
man. Kids aren't using drugs anymore.
No, they vape.
Yeah.
It tastes like candy. Apparently. I don't know. Ridiculous. So, all right, in case you guys were wondering, according to David, Habakkuk is rad.
Habakkuk is rad.
And Freddie's pants are definitely not dope.
No, they're not dope.
No. And,
I had to
maybe
go back
it's
online.
just because
I had
the
to go
pants
back
were attached
online
to
and
dope.
check. I was like, what pants was he wearing?
Oh, I know. I didn't.
You did.
We knew exactly what pants. I was like, oh, I want to play checkers on those pants.
That's hilarious.
I love you, Freddie. Yeah, so there you go. Now you know if you use some of those.
Yeah, you might be retro, or you might need to retire some.
Yeah, you might get laughed at by your Gen Z teenager.
Yeah, our whole youth group.
Ooh, yeah, that hurts. All right, I got some questions.
Okay, let's dig in.
And I only had one that overlapped really with Megan.
Oh, nice, good.
So that was good. I was nervous. I was like, oh,
it's good to get a different perspective.
Take all my questions, man. So I thought that one of the things I picked up from the message is that lament is honest grief directed towards God, while despair is grief without God. Now, a lot of people avoid lament because they assume it will lead to despair or depression. Like that's why I don't go to Good Friday service, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe bitterness or anger or whatever the thing is. But biblically, lament is actually, and Robbie did a great job of explaining this, that it's the pathway out of despair.
Yeah.
So this kind of, I think, reframes sadness for us as more of a practice.
Yeah.
Than like this emotional failure. So the question, what is the difference between lament and despair, if there's any further distinction than just simply that it's directed towards God? And maybe more importantly, how does lament actually keep sadness from turning into something destructive?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the second thing we've already kind of addressed just a little bit, it's that pressure relief valve, you know? Like I think healthy lament actually keeps us two things. One, it keeps us oriented towards God, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what we need. And I actually believe despair has a couple of different modern expressions. And so I think despair is modern depression, which depression is like a sense of hopelessness that's centered on self, where lament is a sense of sadness that's directed towards God and trying to like will ourselves to hope in what God promises, you know? So
and it's like
promise.
recognizing that God is the one who can pull us out of this sadness or the situation.
Yeah, and it's also recognizing that sin caused it, you know? Like, and I think some of that is it creates a, you know, our own, you know, in the ancient world is this messianic expectation, but in our world, it's our need for Jesus, right? Like our need for a savior to come in and lift us up and rescue us. And lament doesn't have to be this like, man, it could be like, I have a friend who betrayed me. You know, and I'm going through the sadness of like what it looks like to be betrayed, to experience the devastating effects of not my own sin, but someone else's sin against me. And like lamenting with God is like this idea of saying, God, it's not supposed to be that way. And I know that person is experiencing the brokenness of their own sin and they're trapped and in captivity and all of that. And but the second way that I think is a new way that despair hits the human heart is in cynicism, and I think there is this. I think the new despair is just a it's kind of an attitude of just being cynical towards everything. There's no good out there. There's no hope. If anything's going to happen, it's going to be on myself, or that's a silly thing or silly thought or a silly, thing to waste your life on, faith. And I think there's a lot of despair happening out in the world right now, especially with younger generations, and that could be seen in the form of cynicism.
Yeah, because I've always thought of cynicism as I don't know, a way that people keep good things at arm's length, you know? And so I've never attached it to despair in that way, but I could definitely see how if you are experiencing hopelessness, that is like a self-protection. You know, like I've totally done that in other areas, right? Where I'm like, oh, that's never going to happen. That thing I really want to happen. Because I don't want to experience the pain of believing it will happen when it doesn't.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a way to try to protect ourselves or make sense of the world that we live in. And that like I think lament helps us make sense of the world, and despair keeps us in a sense of like sweeping it under the rug or burying our head in the sand type of deal.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. Okay, here's something Robbie said that I thought was powerful. He said, compassion requires presence, not comparison. And man, you know, he shared about his son, and in doing so, he did what I thought, and I kind of touched on this earlier, but I thought it was the most helpful thing. He encouraged us not to compare our sorrow to his.
Yeah.
Because, and this is what he said, actually. He said, it's not a good competition. Whose suffering is worse? We don't need comparison. We need compassion. And so...
he said something like everybody loses in that game or something like that. Yeah.
And I thought it was super helpful because as he's sharing, one of the first things that I did instinctively, and I think most people in the room probably did on some level, was compare. And you know, not so much in like my stuff is worse than your stuff kind of way, but just to you know, it could be, sometimes it's that, sometimes it's you have no idea what my pain is. Sometimes it's actually like the flip side of that, like, well, other people have it worse, And so I think that instinct actually makes it harder for us and for people in general to give themselves or give others space for sadness. And it's sometimes comparison becomes a way of distancing ourselves from someone else's pain instead of entering into it. So instead of me just entering into Robbie's pain with him, I start comparing it to my own. And so what he did was so permission giving and so helpful. Why do you think comparison is such a natural instinct when we hear about someone suffering? And then how do we learn to move from comparison to compassion?
Man, that's really good. I think I don't know that there's an easy answer to that. I do know that we have a hard time entering into each other's pain.
Yeah.
And that is some of it's an instinct of like, man, we want to bring relief. We know how much pain stinks and we don't want people to be in it. And so we want to move them past it. But if we move past our pain too quickly, we don't, you have to metabolize your pain. And if you don't metabolize your pain, it'll stay in you and it'll come out in unhealthy ways.
Yeah.
And so a big part of us sitting with people in their pain and their sorrow and the suffering is actually a part of their healing process.
Yeah.
And like recognizing
being that safe space.
Yeah. You need to just be able to sit and move past. And, people say really dumb things when other people are suffering. And so I would probably one of the most practical thing that we can do is just not say less when people are suffering and just be present.
Well, and it's so hard.
Yeah.
You want to fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
Silence is awkward.
Mm-hmm.
Not just on podcasts, guys. In general. Everywhere. Silence is really awkward. And, man, when you're sitting with someone in sorrow and sadness, and then there's silence, you want to fill that space, and that's the temptation.
Yeah.
But it's actually what I found is it's not helpful.
Yeah.
I have oftentimes felt like I'm the guy who can make your already bad situation worse.
Mm-hmm.
just because I'm so uncomfortable. And I've gotten better and I've grown and a pastor now, but just my default,
yeah,
I'm so uncomfortable sitting in that with you that I'm going to make a joke, I'm going to say something dumb, and that's way worse.
Yeah.
Understanding
that we will either store sorrow and save it for later, or we'll metabolize it. We'll work through it and work it into our lives. And I think when we work sorrow into our lives, I actually think we become more grounded, compassionate people. When we store pain and suffering and sorrow, we actually become unpredictable and unhealthy people. And so you have to go through that phase. All the steps of the grieving process are true not just when you lose someone, but when you're hurt, when you are hurt by yourself or hurt by someone else, or you have to be able to go through that grieving process to work through your pain.
Yeah. And one, I think because it's so hard to sit with others in their pain, I think the coping mechanism is comparison.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I did it. I think that's why so many of us did, because it was a really poignant moment. I'm sitting there in the service, Robbie's sharing, and dude, it was a pin drop moment. It was silent.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is fixated on the moment and on the story that Robbie's sharing, his story. And but yet I wonder what was actually happening in all of our minds.
Yeah.
Were we starting to enter into comparison? I know I was, and I would guess I'm not alone. And so I would just, like, if you experienced that like I did, just examine it.
Yeah.
As a starting point.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think comparison never is good for anything.
No, it's like, no.
Unless you're going to compare yourself to Jesus, you know what I mean? And
Sure.
like that's like, and I was even thinking about that. Like, I think sometimes we manipulate our faith in, like, I don't think the point is to be like, look how much Jesus suffered, for you, and like, you should be grateful. I'm not even, like, I was thinking about that just now as you're talking. I'm like, I'm not even sure that's the most helpful way to consider that. Like, I think Jesus suffered so that so that we could relate to him and know that he understands our suffering. I don't think it's meant to like guilt us into like being grateful or worship. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I think it's like more of a statement about his willingness to be like us and to understand us, which makes him the safest place for us to run.
Right.
He understands what it means to be human, and he understands what it means to be betrayed and to, suffer both temptation, betrayal, friendship, loss, pain, physical pain, all of that, being wrongly accused, like all this stuff. He is relatable more than he is unapproachable. He's approachable.
With the joy set before him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, he endured that knowing what he would endure, and did it, maybe not in the moment with a smile on his face, but he did it willingly.
Yeah.
Because he didn't have to.
Yeah.
Just
and I think that's a point. Like, I don't think we're meant to like smile while we're suffering.
No.
I think when we look back on it, like, we can smile and be like, God brought me through.
And I don't know this definitively, but I would imagine that Jesus looks back on all that he endured through the lens of what he accomplished, and it brings him great joy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
It's worth it. It's worth
yes.
it. Yeah.
Yes. All right. I got one more. I want to hit this. Robbie, he shared the story. We talked about it a little bit already. The man in India, his father's going to poison them. His house is burned down. They're living in the jungle. And he said, Robbie, that he realized he was hearing the story through the lens of his expectations, fueled by his comfort idolatry.
Yeah.
While his friend was sharing the story through the lens of Jesus. In other words, Robbie was sharing a story where suffering meant tragedy. And the man saw a story where suffering was a part of how God was at work. So modern comfort, subtly or maybe not so subtly, trains us to believe that God's goodness should show up with ease, safety, and stability. When life becomes painful or chaotic, we tend to assume something's gone wrong spiritually or that God is absent. But the Bible often presents an opposite pattern, that God's faithfulness is showing up in the middle of our suffering, not in the absence of it. So how do modern comforts shape the kind of story we expect God to tell in our lives? And how does that expectation keep us from seeing his goodness when life gets hard?
Yeah.
Duh.
Yeah, man. It's funny how we cherry pick like passages that we want to focus on, and I do this all the time. Like, I believe more than anything in the world that John 10:10 reminds us what Jesus said, I have come to give you life and life in the fullness. And then but we ignore when Jesus says in this world you will have suffering.
Yeah.
But
whoever doesn't leave his father or mother.
But then he says, take heart, I have overcome this world. And so it's like, there is this tension between the now and not yet that we're just not good at, that we think And you said it in your setup there. Like, we think that following Jesus means that everything's going to go our way or everything's going to be perfect. And we don't understand that we live in broken bodies. We live in a broken world. We live in the not yet reality of redemption. And our joys, man, like, the miracle is that there's any joy in this world at all. Like, that's the real miracle. Yeah. Like, and we're so conditioned, especially in the West, especially in America, by comfort and convenience, that we're allowing our expectations to like, the way our expectations are being formed, we just miss God all the time. We miss him all the time. And so we have very little gratitude and thankfulness for God's loving activity in our lives because we're so consumed with what the world offers us, and we're just embedded in it, man. It's a hard task. It really, really is difficult. And there is a radical reformation that needs to take place for the life of a believer, that it's a hard sell, man.
Yeah.
It's a hard sell.
No, it really is. And I mean, I think man, apart from God, looks to technology to create utopia, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's like modern medicine, whether it's just modern conveniences, whatever the thing is. So in a world where you have all these modern conveniences that are meant to make your life easy, and then you're in this you have this spiritual component where things are hard.
Yeah.
Why would anyone enter into it?
Yeah.
Is the just the very baseline way that people think about it. And obviously the answer is what's on the other side.
Yeah.
And that the modern technology and conveniences are a false utopia.
Yeah.
But
and there is a reality where I think a lot of what we call suffering is just inconvenience, or
I was just that, yeah.
Misappropriated expectations, not true suffering. And I don't want to get into comparison and where that, but you need to there's some things like I remember when so I existed before internet.
What?
Like before it was accessible to just common person. And I remember getting our first personal computer in the home.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. It's just like the giant machine set. And it wasn't connected to the internet. So it just do stuff. Like it was just all self-contained. And then I remember when we got the internet and we had to like unplug our phone, plug it into the wall, and then like wait for it to load up. And then we would like search something and like a picture would like scroll like 10 minutes to come on the screen. And it was funny.
It was just the AOL logo.
And I remember back then being in awe of having that.
Yes.
And could you imagine if I walked into my office right now and tried to do something and that was the experience I had? That would be like suffering,
My
like,
kids see that stuff and they're like, your childhood was so hard, Dad.
Yeah, totally. And so I think we're more shaped by the environment than we give ourselves, than we think we are.
Yeah.
And we really have to bring in we have to make a distinction between inconvenience or preference and real suffering. And there's a distinction that the Bible makes. There's suffering because of stupidity and foolishness, and there's suffering because of righteousness' sake. And oftentimes I think we experience suffering because of foolishness.
Right.
And very rarely are we suffering because of righteousness, in our lives. And so there's a whole spectrum of suffering that we could get into that make, that we put expectations on God, or we expect God to be something or do something or to act in a certain way that he never promised, and goes against his character and what he's actually doing in the world.
Right. Which is hard. It's hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
And it's hard to live in.
It is very hard, man. It is, yeah. And it's like, and again, I go, so full circle back. I really believe that it's something only Jesus can do in your heart. Like there's not a magic bullet. There's not we just need to learn to bear ourselves before Christ and be with him and let him like work in those ways. And if you are in a place where you don't know how to be with Christ, like be with Jesus, like you need to find a community that can help you do that can like move you into that, because that's the only way that suffering is going to make sense, and that there's only way that joy can be discovered in pain and suffering and brokenness is through the person and work of Jesus Christ. It's like,
and that's, I think Robbie said it like, the only way to hold joy and sorrow in the same hand is by the power of Jesus.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like that's it. And that's where perseverance comes in, is like, man, I just we can only just stay as close to Jesus as we possibly can in this human broken condition. And it's not perfect. It's not pretty. It's not efficient. It's not convenient. Like following Jesus is not convenient. It's not even safe in regards to social like credit.
Right.
Like,
yes, it's not, and we can argue what version of Christianity this was, but it's not 1950 where being a Christian was a benefit to you,
to your status, cultural status.
Right. Like,
or your
so
bank
politicians
account, or your job
would be Christian, not because they've had an encounter with Jesus, but because there was politically advantageous.
Yeah.
That's not the world we live in.
Which is why Rome became Christianized. It was actually advantageous towards their credibility, like when you look at church history, like they adopted Christianity not necessarily because some sort of radical heart transformation, but they're looking at and they're like, oh, this is actually good for the world, and people are going to revolt against us if we don't do it.
Yeah. That's real.
Yeah.
All right. I gotta know, what are you low-key obsessed about?
Let him cook. It's time for David's low-key obsession.
I'm back to the Good Friday thing.
Yeah.
And this is, if you want to talk about
I don't want to be depressed, David.
Yeah, learning how to sit in sorrow and sadness. Like, man, it is, our Good Friday service is designed to be an experiential service that helps us sit in the pain and sorrow that Christ suffered. And these are the ways that we learn. These are the ways that we're formed and we sit against. And I think, I'm excited about, with our church, lamenting together and looking at what it looks like to truly become a people who have Jesus as their center, as the thing that they're fixated on. And that's my low-key obsession.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. We got some things in the works, not just for Good Friday, but for Easter too.
Oh,
the whole weekend. The whole weekend.
We got a little reveal going on.
Yeah.
Might have a little different look in there.
Yeah, some
people might be angry.
Things.
Some people might be excited.
Yeah, we'll find out which you
are.
Are you a complainer, or as we said last week, I believe, or groaning? We'll find out.
We'll find.
If we frame it that way, no one can get mad at us,
complain.
Right?
Yeah.
No, it's actually really cool. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for it. Not just for the stuff, but really for gathering together as a community to be able to share moments of both deep sorrow and grief for the pain that we caused.
Yeah.
And immense joy and gratitude for the victory that Christ had over sin and death, and we get to experience. So, it's going to be great. All right. IRL.
#IRL. And if you don't know what that means, you must be old. In real life.
Yes, sir.
Well, one, come to Good Friday.
Yes. Literally, right?
Yeah, literally. Like that's a good place to start if you want.
Are we going to stream Good Friday?
I don't think so.
No,
we don't do that.
We're not.
Yeah.
We're not. We want.
This is an
if
in
we
real
want
life
you to
experience.
it with all five senses.
Yes.
That's not going to happen on screen.
No.
So
come and here's the other thing. In like real talk, if you do not have a community of people that you can be honest with about how you're feeling or not feeling, maybe you're numb. Like maybe you're in a place where you really struggle to feel it all for Jesus. Like I just encourage you to find a community where you can be honest about that. And maybe it's one person, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a group of guys or gals, maybe it's a mixed group where you can, just be honest. And it really starts there. I don't think that we can grow or experience the type of freedom that Jesus has in mind for us in isolation and individualism. I think we can only do it in the context of community. And I really believe that that's what God has in mind.
Yeah, I agree. And I do think it's so important for us to have that type of community, those types of safe spaces where we can be fully known and fully loved. And yes, the world is broken. And so our communities will be also.
Yeah.
But to have glimpses of that within community is
but
powerful.
It's also even navigating the brokenness of relationships that help us to grow in the likeness of Christ, because you have to experience things like grace and mercy and steadfast love, unconditional love, and inconvenience.
Yes.
And all those types of things. Like
all
only community can do that. And that's what I mean. It's like, you can work through some of the emotional stuff. You can learn, tools for regulating your own emotions and metabolizing your pain and sorrows and loss expectations. But until you learn how to do life with other people in the midst of your own mess and their mess, like your growth is going to be predominantly superficial and inward. It's going to be bent inward.
Well, if all of your relationships are superficial or surface level, that's how deep you'll grow.
Yeah.
For real. I mean, there is a real relationship between the depth of our growth and the depth of relationships that we involve.
And listen, there is self-work that needs to be done. And there's times where, man, you might be in a situation where some of the trauma or pain or suffering you're going through is so bad, you might need to work with a counselor or professional to start getting through that. But you can't stay stuck there. Like eventually that has to move from self to others to community, and that's the beauty of the church. Is the church needs to have access to kind of like all of those phases of personal growth.
It's good.
Yeah.
So come.
Yeah.
Friday,
7 p.m.
7
right here. We're gonna have this place, totally transformed into a place of experience.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
It's going to be great.
I actually don't even know what it's going to be like. They're like plotting things behind the scenes. And so I'm excited to experience it.
Yeah, we don't want to ruin it for them.
Yeah. I'm finding out stuff every day.
Yeah,
we're going to do that.
I didn't know we were doing that. That's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I've heard that more than once from you.
Yeah.
So, hey, thank you for sticking with us here. Man, we love you guys. We're here for you. Man, find community and safe spaces to live this out. Don't bury your sorrow, but share it.
Yeah.
And
we have a special episode coming up.
Oh, we do.
The Monday after Easter. Yes. We have a ladies' takeover.
Hostile
takeover.
Oh,
no, not hostile.
No, not
loving and with joy.
Oh, good.
But yeah, I'm excited about this. We're gonna have We're going to have Megan and Michelle and my wife Tara on the podcast, and they're taking it over, and they're going to be talking about some pretty cool stuff. So you're not going to want to miss it.
Be there or be square.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's retired.
That's
very retired. Yeah. Hey, thanks again. We love you. Catch you next week.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to Centered. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with a friend. You can listen to Centered on your favorite podcast platform or watch on YouTube. To learn more about Mosaic or connect further, visit us online at welcometomosaic.com. See you next week.